Papa told me I couldn't do a lot of things.
I feel like I'm the chosen one.
Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. All we are is proud and passionate. I love Toronto. I love this team. And we're going to the NBA Finals. Let's go!
Nothing matters but winning.
Welcome back to episode 21 of Rapzville Weekly. I'm your co-host, Gabriel Cellio, partnered with
Adam Pasucci.
I switched it up for you, Adam. I didn't say along with or here with. I said partnered with, just to keep it interesting. Today's episode 21, number of Matt Thomas, some other greats, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and soon-to-be Joel Embiid. Today, for Week 3 NBA recap, we have a couple of Raps games to go through, I think 4 of them, and some other games and performances we're going to talk about. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. First off, we have Raptors versus Grizzlies. In this first game, the Raptors came away with a 108-99 victory with Pascal Siakam's 26 points, 1 rebound, and 3 assists on 9 for 16 shooting from the field. His shooting was much better this game than it has been in the past, 3-pointers included, but he did have 4 turnovers. The start of the game felt a little shaky, like the players were maybe scared to shoot, possibly from losing confidence after that Celtics blowout. However, we did shake this off by the second quarter as we outscored them 40-29. The other starters had average games to sum it up. Lowry had 15 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, and 4 steals on 4 for 12 shooting, 2 for 9 from 3. And Van Vliet had 14 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, and 2 blocks on 4 for 7 shooting. So both players had well-rounded performances, did a bit of everything on both ends of the floor. But Kyle did not have the best of shooting nights, not to mention his 9 turnovers. Powell and Ibaka performed well off the bench with 16 and 12 points respectively. Ibaka also had 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks on 5 for 9 shooting, whereas Powell shot 4 for 8 and contributed 2 rebounds and 4 assists.
Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen, and Ja Morant were some of the problems that night. Brooks had 25 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals on 11 for 26 shooting. Allen had 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist on 6 for 14 shooting. And Ja had 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 10 assists on 7 for 19 shooting. JV had 0 points, 10 boards, and 1 assist on 0 for 2 shooting. So we were saying that Mark outplayed him. I guess obviously the trade paid off. Overall, we shot better from 3 and from the field this game, 39% to their 33% from 3 and 48% to their 41% from the field. This stemmed from our strong defensive intensity throughout the game. I noticed Pascal was working harder than usual on that end of the floor, which is nice to see and what we want to see as Raptor fans. He becomes a much more effective player. He uses his talents and size on both ends of the floor. All other team stats were roughly the same between rebounds, assists, steals, and turnovers. We did have 26 total turnovers, which is never good. Jack kept mentioning it during the game that we needed to lessen the turnovers. It's a big part of the Raptors doing well to not turn over the ball. One final thing we wanted to mention was something that Jack and Matt were talking about during the game. They were discussing the possibility of Nick Nurse winning Coach of the Year. And they mentioned how people who watch the Raptors day in and day out know that this team is still a force to be reckoned with, even after the loss of Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. This also stems from strong coaching, being able to take this disadvantaged team, cursed with injuries all season, and keep them at the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference and second in the league overall. This puts Nick Nurse at a huge debate for Coach of the Year, and all Raptors fans anonymously agree that he should win it. Now moving on to the Raptors versus Bucks. Lowry and Fred sat this game for rest, and Ibaka could not play due to injury. Meanwhile, Giannis sat due to an oral surgery he had received earlier on in the day. Powell and Davis were set to start this game, and Powell had an amazing performance with 21 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and 3 blocks on 7 for 13 shooting and 4 threes made. Pascal had 14 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals, but shot horribly. He was 1 for 7 from 3 and 5 for 16 from the field. Let's hope his shooting obviously improves going into the playoffs. Getting all the rough starts out now, all the shooting downs out now before the playoffs start. But his form is looking more and more stiff as we've seen him play, which is worrisome. Yeah, he shot well last game, so we are starting to notice an on and off trend here, and it's not good. We want to see consistency from our max contract man.
True.
Davis somehow fouled out in 16 minutes of play, contributing 10 points. Also, Mark shot 0 for 5 from the field, 4 of them being 3-ball attempts. We do not want to see him this form from him come playoff time, obviously, where we need all of our players to be scoring threats. He did, however, have 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and 1 block in his 20 minutes of play. Also, huge performance from the much-anticipated breakout bubble game for Chris Boucher. We have been saying we wanted to see more minutes from him, and we got that. In his 29 minutes of play, Boucher had 25 points, 11 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks on 9 for 15 shooting and 3 threes. He was all over the place, firing shots, driving to the rack, and blocking big shots. Finally, Matt Thomas off the bench dropped 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist on 9 for 17 shooting. He had 4 3-balls too in his 37 minutes of play.
Our bench players had some big nights here as we were able to outperform the number 1 team in the league. Our bench and reserve players performed better than the Bucks bench, which is promising for our deep rotation. Korver and Middleton led for the Bucks with 19 points and 17 points, respectively. Korver shot 5 for 6 from 3 and had 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Middleton contributed 4 rebounds and 3 assists, shooting 6 for 12 from the field. Paul Watson and Stanley Johnson got their first real minutes in the bubble for the Raptors, 21 minutes and 10 minutes, but neither performed too well, totaling 1 for 8 shooting from the field and had 4 points and 8 rebounds total. Those guys we're going to talk a little bit about later as they've been getting more and more minutes in these last couple of games as we're trying to rest our starters for the playoffs. But it's been great to see some of these younger guys in. Usually we don't see them at all. We know when we talk about them soon, we're going to have some of their origin stories coming up. We don't really know what to say about these guys, even the contract video, because we haven't been given a lot of time to see and assess their play. But during this bubble, we've been really focusing on them a little bit. When they get on the court, we make sure to pay attention to what they're doing and see them if they're getting better or worse and what their play style is like. And it's been exciting to see some of these younger guys get some minutes here. We shot a better percentage from the field overall, but we shot a worse 3-point percentage. We got a little more rebounds than them and the same amount of assists, but less turnovers. We only had 14 turnovers this game, so far better from the last game against Memphis. So that's good, even against one of the best teams, or the best team in the league, technically by record, the Bucks. We had less turnovers in the game against Memphis, so it's good to see that we kind of bounced back and sharpened up this game. And now moving on to Lakers versus the Nuggets. This was a close matchup for the entirety of the game. The biggest lead for the Lakers was 7, and for the Nuggets it was 6. So this game, we watched pretty much most of it after the Raps game. It was tied going into the fourth quarter, 88-88, and the fourth quarter was definitely a fun one to watch. As the game was tied 121-121, LA had a chance to win it off an inbounds play with 4.5 seconds remaining. And you can ask any of my friends, but I called the play. I said, Bron's going to inbound. There's going to be some type of screen handoff, and then they're going to shoot a 3-ball. What happens? Bron inbounded to Davis, a little screen handoff to Kuzma, who wrapped around for 3. Kuzma puts up the shot and nails it over a late contesting Bull. There wasn't enough time on the clock nor a good look to tie the game up, so the Lakers took this one 124-121. The Nuggets had a high and better field goal percentage this game, which was 58, which is crazy high compared to the LA's 54%. And the Nuggets 3-ball percentage is also much higher at 57%, which is great for 3-ball compared to the Lakers' 48%. All other team comparison stats were roughly the same this game.
PJ Dozier led the Nuggets with 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists on 5 for 7 shooting. However, the scoring for the Nuggets was very evenly distributed. Millsap had 13, 4 and 4. Michael Porter Jr. had 15, 4 and 1 on a perfect 6 for 6 from the field. Jokic had 12 points, 1 and 4. And Morris had 14, 3 and 4. Finally, Murray had 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals on 6 for 10 shooting. Meanwhile, the scoring for the Lakers was dominated by the 3 stars. LeBron led with 29 points, 1 rebound, 12 assists, and 2 blocks on 9 for 21 shooting. He had 5 turnovers also. Davis had 27 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks on 9 for 15 shooting. Finally, Kuz, with the game winner, had 25 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals on 11 for 16 shooting. Now moving on to the Raptors versus 76ers. What a great game this was. OG took this game off, and Serge was out with a knee injury. The Raptors were outscored in the first quarter, 32-25. after some lackluster plays. We were struggling to rebound and defend the three ball, which may have been improved if we had Nick Nurse encouraging the boys from the sideline. However, assistant coach Adrian Griffin took over as a head coach this game. This could be to give the NBA a chance to see what Griffin can offer as a head coach, since he has been doing a good job under Nurse so far. And just wanted to stop it here, Gabe. What do you think of this? Of Nurse giving Adrian Griffin such a big opportunity to display his coaching skills, which other coaches probably wouldn't have done, and wouldn't have gave the assistant coach a chance to with such a big opportunity and such a big spotlight.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a unique opportunity, and it's nice to see Griffin, get a chance to show off his skill set and what he brings to this team. Assistant coaches usually, especially, they get hidden in the limelight of the head coach. You remember Dwayne Casey? Like I didn't even really know Nick Nurse too much before that, even though he had that assistant coach role the entire time. So maybe as Dwayne Casey gave him a little bit of the spotlight, maybe Nick Nurse trying to do that same thing, prep Adrian Griffin to maybe have that role and possibly be a head coach for another team, or maybe even when Nick Nurse is done, he would step in. Who knows? So it's good to see some of his talents be brought to the front stage for people to view. And, like we're going to say, it could have been for a multitude of reasons. It could be to give him a chance. It could also maybe be so that Nick Nurse can, sit in the sidelines and just view the game from a different perspective, because maybe he's going to see something he wouldn't necessarily see. Because remember, as a head coach, you're going to be focusing on your players, telling them what to do. You're going to be really locked in on certain things that are happening, but maybe as he sits on the sideline, you can step back and just view the game as a whole of what the team needs to be doing better at. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that was very, very nice of Nurse. And that was something that I think was needed. And Adrian Griffin really obviously appreciated the opportunity. Boucher and Lowry shared the top scoring role with 19 points apiece. Boucher had 9 rebounds and 4 blocks on 7 for 12 shooting with 4 threes. The blocks were electric. Obviously, as Chris Boucher, always getting momentum for the team, owning the paint and jumping out for contests. Lowry had 1 rebound, 3 assists, and 2 steals on 6 for 11 shooting. He's starting to make it a habit of scoring a quarter-ending buzzer beater by sprinting the court with under 5 seconds remaining and then making a tough layup. Always trying to get the most out of the time on the clock is Kyle Lowry. Powell also had 50% from the field and from 3 as he dropped 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson played well on both ends of the floor this game. He was showing off his high IQ and had some nice ISO drives to the rack. In the end, he had 8 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, and 2 steals on 2 for 3 shooting. He actually hit a 3-ball too, which we don't see often from him, especially because his form is pretty ugly and it's not the normal form and is very unorthodox. Another notable thing was that Matt Thomas did not shoot too well this game, shooting 2 for 7 from the field with 6 points and 3 rebounds. For the 76ers, we were very impressed with the court guy, freaking Korkmaz, who had 21 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals on 5 for 10 shooting, all 5 being 3 balls. He was hitting tough shots and always found a way to get open or make impactful plays on the court for the 76ers. Harris also held a bulk of the scoring with 22 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks on 8 for 13 shooting.
Yeah, but by far the best part of this game was the action-packed ending where reserves battled the 76ers reserves. Our starters were sitting on the bench, hyping up our players and talking smack to the 76ers starters, which was hilarious to watch as the two teams traded buckets. Lowry, Pascal, Norm, they were all going crazy. Every basket we made, because some of them were pretty crazy and tough shots. And then, just cheering and standing up, coming out of their seats. And then the 76ers were responding, doing the same thing. And we had a little back and forth going, and it was hilarious to see. I know me and Adam were on the phone. We were getting a laugh from it. I know Jack and Matt were loving it too. Yeah. It felt like a playoff atmosphere. There was so much intensity, especially because there was no crowd. There's no big actual momentum factor. That was as close as they got to having some real momentum. And so it was great to see just our team, fight back and show a lot of just team chemistry and have a lot of fun in the bubble. So After Matisse Thybulle's 3-pointer, we were down 118-112 with just under 2 minutes to go. Then the comeback was on after Duan Hernandez's fake handoff and 1 layup. This is the first time really we've seen Juan Hernandez in the bubble, and one of the only times we've seen him on the court in general. There's probably been a handful of games. So this first basket, made a good impression on us. We want to see our boys take the comeback win from the 76ers. So seeing some players step up, it was fun to see. Then Matt Thomas hit a heavily contested 3 off the handoff from Juan Hernandez to cut the lead down to 1. Right after that, Paul Watson hit a crafty step-through layup to finally give us the lead. It was a big clutch basket for this reserve player, which we've not seen much of. And the 76ers then hit a 3-ball, but Stanley Johnson came in with a fake handoff layup that tied the game up at 121. Our bench started to go crazy, jumping on each other and yelling at Embiid, Harris, and Horford. We managed to get a stop, and we had the final chance to win it. So Stanley Johnson had the ball. He was very ball dominant. The past couple times we've seen him, he's been pretty much leading that reserve unit. They tried to double team him, but he got off the double team, came around, drove to the basket, and then dropped it off to Juan Hernandez, who had a good look to lay it up for the win, but somehow he had the ball way too low, and he went up for a shot and got blocked. But that block somehow, if at first it sunk both of our hearts, we're like, because Juan was playing really well, and we wanted to see him make that bucket. It would have been hilarious, but he got blocked, and the block landed right into Stanley Johnson's hands, so the Sandanimal was able to put up a game-winning floater with 5 seconds remaining. Great to see him hit a game-winning basket. Never thought I would see that anytime soon, but it was fun to see some of these reserve guys, man. We really don't see them too often, so seeing them get this chance and seeing them actually get to play, get some real minutes was really good to see. And overall, it was a good game to watch. Fun and exciting night to end, and the way to end it, winning that comeback. Moving on to the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Nuggets. The Nuggets, tough run here. They just versus the Lakers. Now they're versus the Clippers. The Clippers won this game 124-111 and shot a better percentage from the field, 54% versus 49%. The three-point percentage is roughly the same, but the Nuggets slightly out-rebounded and out-assisted the Clippers. The Nuggets also had more turnovers. The Clippers dominated the second half, coming back from an 8-point deficit at halftime. Paul George and Kawhi obviously led the way like usual with 27 and 26 points respectively. Kawhi chimed in with 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals on 9 for 16 shooting, whereas George contributed 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals on 9 for 20 shooting. Lou Williams also had a good night, like we usually see from him, with 23 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, and 1 steal on 8 for 13 shooting.
Jeremy Grant led the Nuggets with 25 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal on 9 for 14 shooting. Jokic also had 17, 7, and 3 on 7 for 11 shooting from the field. The Clippers obviously showed their dominance this game, taking care of one of the powerhouses in the West. It will be difficult, for sure, a difficult matchup for all teams in that conference. And we will see if they end up versing the Raptors in the finals. Now moving on to the Raptors versus Nuggets. The Nuggets continue to find trouble with their tough matchups as they versed us Friday afternoon. They had their usual starters playing about 10 minutes of the game, whereas our only starter that had minutes was Marc Gasol. Kyle, Freddie, Pascal, and OG all set out to rest for the playoffs, while Serge was out with his knee injury. Matt Thomas, Norman Powell, Terrence Davis, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, and Marc Gasol consisted of our starting lineup. So similar to the last game, we expected to see a lot more minutes out of our young core this game. And some of these young players continue to impress us, specifically Paul Watson and Stanley Johnson. We have barely seen them all season and didn't really know what to say about them. But this game, I'm telling you, they came up big, getting 25-plus minutes.
Yeah.
Stanley Johnson has impressed with his confidence, demanding the ball on plays and running the offense from the 2 or 3 position. He had 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists on 9 for 16 shooting, including 4 3-balls. He shot well overall, took good looks, and drove hard to the basket, making high IQ plays for the most part. He did, however, have 5 turnovers, which we will give him a bit of a break. It is his first big game, and he was handling the ball a lot. Paul Watson was another talent we enjoyed watching for his hard drives and dunks. He took many good shots, totaling 22 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists on 8 for 13 shooting, with 4 threes of his own too.
Yeah, Jack and Matt were saying, Jack specifically was really praising Paul Watson's game. He liked it a lot. And, we were impressed in general. Haven't seen much of these guys. Paul Watson, never really see him on the floor for more than 30 seconds. And all of a sudden he's coming out and he's taking hard drives to the rack. He's not scared. He's handling the ball. He's making plays. taking shots, even Stanley, leaving him open, he's firing. These guys weren't afraid to play. Maybe it's because they knew they had some more minutes. They knew it was going to be a night where they could fully show off their game. Maybe they came in more confident, but I think they just played well overall with that time that they were given. It was great seeing them. Matt Thomas had 12, 3, and 2 on 4 for 6 shooting, while Davis had 14, 6, and 3, but sadly on 5 for 15 shooting. Miller actually shot well too, with 4 for 5 from the field, 2 of them being 3-pointers, totaling 10 points, 1 rebound, and 3 assists. We usually don't see much from him either, so it was nice to watch him contribute. I usually say it to Adam. Usually he's just kind of there just filling a role as someone on the floor, but sometimes doesn't contribute. He'll have like 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, and he'll just be playing defense and just being a guy in the court. But he actually did decent, took good shots, good looks. He did good defensively also, showed off some of his experience over other reserve players of the younger guys, actually. So it's good to see him play overall. And PJ, once again, like the last game, I think against the Clippers we're talking about, he dropped 20 points for the Nuggets, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals on 6 for 9 shooting with 5 threes. And Monte Morris also had 16 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1 block on 4 for 14 shooting. We shot a better percentage this game from the field, 50% versus their 41. And we also shot better from 3, 51 versus their 42. We out-rebounded them 57-46, which is fantastic. We had the same amount of assists, but slightly more turnovers, 19-16, so not too bad. And we basically came out strong in the start. That's how the game went. We held the lead for the entire game after that first quarter lead, and we ended it off 117-109 for the Raps. Great game for the rookies and the reserves to develop, and got some proper minutes in the bubble. It was just great to see overall. A good way to end off the season with a win, getting the second best record in the bubble, 7-1. Moving on to Bucks versus Mavericks. This was just another big game that we thought we'd mention. We had to throw it in here. Last Saturday, Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks, they got past Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks in double OT, with the final score ending up 136-132. Doncic had a beautiful stat line that displayed 36 points, 14 rebounds, and 19 assists, which was a career high in dimes and boards. I believe also he tied LeBron James with the highest amount of assists in the season with 19. He picked up his 17th triple-double of the season and came up clutch play after play in the dying moments to secure the W for his team. He was just absolutely on fire, making beautiful passes. I believe this is the game he did that bounce pass through the legs for one of the last times. So he was just on fire, and great game to watch overall.
Yeah, Doncic really put his part in for the Mavericks, and he's really showing why he's going to be one of the best players in the world one day, and is already, to be honest. His coach, Rick Carlisle, also explained how Luka had a calm demeanor throughout the game and showed great poise in the pressurized moments of the game. Kristaps Porzingis did foul out in the game, but did contribute with 26 points. Dorian Finney-Smith had a career high in points with 27, and Maxi Kleber dropped 15 points on 5 for 8 shooting. On the other hand, the Greek Freak had 34 points, 13 rebounds with 5 blocks, but before fouling out later in the game. Brook Lopez did his part, beating his career high with 34 points, making 6 threes and keeping the defense honest and stretching out the floor. Chris Middleton had 21 points and 11 assists on 8 for 12 shooting. Now bringing it to Damian Lillard's final game performances. When Portland needed it the most, the man himself, Dollar Dame, made his name known, ending the season off with 5 outstanding performances, averaging 44.2 points in those games. The Trailblazers were in the playoff race against the Suns, Grizzlies, and Spurs, trying to lock up the 8th or 9th seed to participate in the Western Conference play-in series. Lillard also got help from fellow teammates Yusuf Nurkic and CJ McCollum in carrying the load, but really stole center stage with his fascinating numbers that he's been putting up.
Yep, he's been playing fantastic. Really trying his best to make the playoffs here. Obviously, like we said, close race between all the teams in the West. Those final spots are very tight, and they said if it was not within, I believe, 4 games or so, the 8th and 9th spot, there'd be the play-in series. So what's going to happen now is the Portland is set off to versus Memphis later on today. We might end up adding this to the episode, and if Portland wins because they came in 8th, they would move on to the playoffs. But if they lose, then there's another game. And then game 2, if Memphis beats Portland again, they'll go through. But if Portland wins one of those 2 games, they're moving forward. Dame, obviously, last couple of games, he had to show out. He had to get his team to that playoff spot. So he played big, scored a huge amount of points, and clutched up. But another great story is the Suns. They came really close, 8-0 season run. They had the best record in the bubble, and they just missed the playoffs. Coming into the bubble, the Phoenix Suns had a slim to none chance of making the playoffs. or postseason, but for sure they did give it their best shot. They won all 8 of their seeding games, just falling short of the Memphis Grizzlies in 9th seed. They had the same record, same winning percentage, but the Suns did lose 3 out of their 4 meetings with the Grizzlies before the hiatus, which did cost them dearly, obviously, as they did perform their best, and they had to rely on other players and other teams to misperform because Memphis did lose a lot of their games at the start of the bubble, so things were looking perfectly for them, but Portland did their job of closing out the wins, and Grizzlies did come out with the win in their final game over the Bucks, which obviously that's a tough team to beat, and the Bucks probably didn't have their best players on, and Memphis ended up pulling out the win. So sad to see the Suns go. We do have to give them respect, though, because they played very hard this bubble. Devin Booker was a different animal. Aiden contributed. They had good players, Bridges. Everyone overall performed well, and the team took on massive players. They, I believe, at the Clippers. They bet Dallas in their final game. So they took on a lot of hard matchups, and they did their job. So, good job to them. Special shout-outs. And it came down, to a Brooklyn Nets team who already made the postseason and were just playing for pride. And Damian Lillard, regular season phenom, ended the Suns' Cinderella story and put their aspirations to bed with a win. After Memphis won, they won, sent them home. So, good to see them play. They still play well, so shout out to them. But yeah, now the Raptors set to versus Brooklyn Nets in their first round. The first game is on Monday, which we'll be talking about in next week's recap.
I wanted to bring it back to the Phoenix Suns. With Devin Booker and Draymond Green speaking out saying that Booker's career is better somewhere else. Do you feel that Booker can make a winning franchise in Phoenix with the pieces he has around him? Because they already kind of have the rebuild set. Now they're just the growth of the team is trying to grow. And they're a great coach team, as many NBA players have said. But what do you think about that, about Devin Booker moving team?
I think so far, he's been there for a long time, and if he could have moved a while back, really, he said he was done not making the playoffs. He's a great player, beautiful young talent. I think that he could have moved a couple years ago. But the fact that he stayed shows that he's got some loyalty to the team and some trust and faith in them. I'm seeing moving forward, the years before, around 2016, 2017, they're making a lot of bad moves, giving away pieces like Bledsoe and not getting much in return. But as of recent, they have been making smart decisions. DeAndre Ayton, good player, as long as he, focuses on his development, he'll get there. They brought in Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, another good player, Kelly Oubre Jr. Yeah. So they've been bringing in better pieces, and they've been holding good spots in the draft. So their team's going to continue to improve. I think moving forward now, they're starting to get a little bit better. What I've seen in the bubble, if I can see that outside the bubble in regular season, I have some hope in them that they could be good during the season and, possibly make the playoffs, hopefully soon, maybe at the 8th seed spot. I hope to see that from them, but right now I think that they have been making better moves, so if Devin Booker is going to stay, I hope that they continue to play at that level and make it worth his while, or else, if he left a couple years ago, it would have done great for him as well. So if he moves, good for him, but if he stays, I'd like to see this whole team, and the organization in general perform well together and help him get to where he wants to be. So we ended up watching the Portland-Memphis game just to see what would happen, and obviously it ended. Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers are headed to the 2020 playoffs after a 126-122 victory over the Memphis Grizzlies. This game started close, and Memphis took a decent lead in the third quarter. However, Portland took care of business in the fourth following a big clutch performance by C.J. McCollum, who ended up dropping 29 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and a block on 11 for 19 shooting. I believe he had 10 of these points possibly in the fourth quarter, so he really clutched up at the end. Dame also pulled up with 31 points, 2 rebounds, 10 assists, and a steal on 6 for 15 shooting. Carmelo also had a clutch 3 in the last 2 minutes after shooting 0 for 5 from 3 before that. He ended up with 21 points. Finally, shout out to Nurkic for his stellar play, 22 points, 21 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks on 8 for 14 shooting.
Morant led with 35 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists on 13 of 28 shooting. JV had 22 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 assists on 50% shooting. Solid from JV. Brooks and Clark contributed 20 points apiece as well. Overall, Memphis shot better from the field, from 3, had more rebounds and more assists. They did have more turnovers, though, and far less free throw attempts, so that clearly was the story of the game.
So, Kia NBA Player of the Seeding Games, they announced it went to Damian Lillard. Obviously, he had big scoring nights. 6 of his games, he had 30-plus points, and 4 of them were 40-plus points. He obviously has been dominant, fighting for his team to make the playoffs, so I I understand why that was given to him. This is obviously like the MVP of the bubble games, is what they're trying to do. And the NBA coach of the seeding games, they gave it to Monty Williams, of course, for the Phoenix Suns. His team went 8-0. They played fantastic basketball, and they put a really good shot for a playoff contending chance. So shout out to them. They played amazing. We talked about these two before, so we'll just move on from here.
Okay, and then the NBA decided for the Kia NBA All Seeding Games first team. It was Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, James Harden, and T.J. Warren.
Yep.
I'm not too upset about this first team. Our Raptors kind of distributed the scoring and had their nights each individually, and there wasn't one guy really playing their best basketball consistent throughout. So I'm fine with that first team. The second team is Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, Karis LeVert, Michael Porter Jr., and Kristaps Porzingis. Karis LeVert, we're going to be seeing him in probably a week's time. So it's going to be a big matchup, and we have to keep him contained as the Brooklyn starts.
Yeah, overall, everyone played really well. I can see why these are the first and second teams. D-Book, obviously, for the Suns. Doncic, Porzingis, they played well. Damian Lillard. And understand why we weren't given a position because, one night it was Kyle, next night it was Freddie's game, a career high. We kind of had a good night for every person every other night. And obviously, we played our bench a lot more during the last couple of games because we were in a good position, whereas Portland was fighting for that playoff spot. Yeah. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up. We hope you all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, of course, with visuals. Check out Instagram for more NBA content. We got news, we have box scores, everything basketball related. But we are a Raptors page, so you can find us on Instagram at Rapzville. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you all enjoyed. That's us signing out. Peace.
Peace.